This is a Master Loss sector whilst 10 under the recommended power level, and you can just call me God. Now with this build you'll be able to run around with 2 Master Overload champs, 1 barrier, a bunch of adds, a few Vandal snipers, and some exploding shanks shooting you all at the same time and just survive everything. To top this off, you'll be doing a reverse tactic by causing insane damage to enemies using a combination of both your solo abilities and your solo weapons, because together we'll be maxing out our damage to completely melt everything. You're going to have infinite invisibility on pretty much every melee kill and finisher, infinite heavy ammo, instant health on kills, restoration, a DPS increase to your abilities and your weapons from multiple sources, faster supers which you can get as quick as just 30 to 60 seconds depending on the setup, and you will be able to use the same build with a few different options so you're not restricted to using specific things. Now solo on a hunter has seen bad days, but I'm here to revive this build and make it as strong as it can be in endgame PvE during Season of the Seraph. So stay tuned, hit the thumbs up if you like this one, and be sure to subscribe for more like this. And now without further delay, let's go melt the crap out of everything. Roll the intro. Now firstly, as always, if you do like this one and you want to see more like this, then you can find the full playlist of new and updated builds, which is linked down below, and you might just find your new best build in there. But with this one today, your hunter is going to dominate PvE activities. Now bear in mind that this is a Master Loss sector whilst underpowered, where the only way we can regenerate our health is to collect those dumb attrition wells, which actually makes this build even better. So having some negative modifiers in these activities can actually be beneficial to us. But overall, when you're using this build in endgame PvE, it's not going to be always good. There are going to be times where you have a really difficult situation where it's almost impossible to counter, but the way we have it set up is that as long as you have adds around, you can counter pretty much anything, because we'll use those adds to build up DPS stacks, make us invisible, and all that sort of stuff. So this build would be perfect for things like a Master Dungeon, Master Nightfalls, and all that sort of stuff where you have a lot of adds around. We'll be getting faster supers with the hands-on mods. I am only running 1, so it's not going to be as fast. You'll also get infinite ammo by finishing champions, and what's great about this is that because we're using Assassin's Cowl, finishing a champion will make us invisible, give us health, and then give us ammo, which basically sets us up for the next kill. There is quite a lot to this build, but it's pretty straightforward to use. So a quick example of how to use this build, and we will have to use a legend activity for this test, since my normal loss sector is just too easy to show how the test works. But basically you'll start by damaging an enemy with your solo weapon, and then with your melee to ideally kill them. This will spawn a solo well, make you invisible and buff your solo DPS. From here you just go around killing everything and repeating the same thing. When things go bad, just throw down a healing grenade and get the F out of there. I mean, it's actually sort of like some superhero movie where you're just going around melting everything and then just vanishing right after. Anyway, when it comes to dealing with a champion, you ideally want to damage them with a solo ability and then go in for the kill. The reason for this is because we're going to be getting a 10% damage increase to our weapons, plus a DPS increase, with hopefully Font of Might if you manage to pick up a solo well, as well as another increase from being radiant. So all these stacked up together is going to melt everything if you do it right. There may be cases where you might not kill things quickly, which can happen if you've made a mistake, so just back away, refresh, and then try again. You will have pretty much infinite heavy ammo anyway, as long as you're using Lucent Finisher, so it's okay to use your ammo. Now just quickly in terms of what exotics to use, I thought Assassin's Cowl was the best choice since we can go invisible, while also getting health. Now since we're chaining between solo kills and melee kills, this is what my favourite choice is because it gives you the extra survivability, and we will have infinite melees as long as you get the kill while radiant. Now your other choices are Celestial Nighthawk if using a golden gun, a Shards of Galanor if using Blade Barrage, and a 6 Coyote for the extra dodge, for the times where you miss with your melee and need a new one, because you'll then just dodge near an enemy and get that straight back. Now personally I'd stick with Assassin's Cowl, as powered melee final blows and finishers grant invisibility, which is just too good not to use, especially when the aim is to get melee kills right. So if you're doing that, then you're making good use out of this exotic, and it's going to save you in a lot of situations. Now in terms of weaponry, I found the Lament to be really effective with this build, especially since you have anti-barrier rounds built in, and you can also get health back too. You do want to make sure you're running solo weapons, since we are buffing solo attacks only with this build. Now if you don't like swords, or you feel like it's too up close and personal and out of your comfort zone, then you can use things like a galley, a solar linear, or basically anything that's just solar that you prefer for DPS. But if you are using a sword and going up to a champion, you will be able to finish them for invis and heavy ammo, which is just great. It's one of the reasons I actually chose Lament, but it is up to you. Make sure you are running a solar energy weapon though, so that you can boost up your abilities damage too. In regards to using a sword, you can use Lucent Blade if you want to, but I didn't feel the need for it since we are using Radiant anyway for our global buff to damage. There are two things you want to make sure you're doing with this build, and that's number 1, make sure you're always Radiant, and number 2, make sure you're always chaining between shooting ads with your solar weapons and hitting them with your solar abilities. If you're not doing those two, then you're doing something wrong, because I mean, you're not going to be making the build efficient with that extra damage, so in theory, the only two things you need for this build to work are the subclass aspects and fragments, and then the new artifact mod. But anyway, in terms of the setup, let's check it out. So first we got the Hunter's solar subclass, the Gunslinger with the Blade Barrage Super. You can use Golden Gun if you want to, it's down to you, it doesn't really matter what super you use. But next you want to make sure you have a Gambler's Dodge on so that you can get the melee back if you ever mess up with it. If you're a god, then you don't need to, but it's mostly for the times when it doesn't get the final blow on an enemy, because if you're not getting the final blow, you're not going to get the melee back. Anyway, the actual melee we're using is going to be the knife trick so it can scorch enemies, and then a healing grenade as your last resort for surviving. Aspects are knock 'em down, your solar supers are enhanced, and while Radiant, final blows with your throwing knife are fully refunded. So as long as you get the final blow of that melee, you're going to get it straight back, which in most cases in master content at level, you should always be getting the final blow on minor adds. But the next aspect is on your mark, mostly using this for the 3 fragment slots, which are going to be Ember of Singeing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch enemies. Ember of Torches, powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies Radiant, so that's how we'll always have Radiant active. And then Ember of Char so that solar ignitions spread scorch to affected targets with a +10 to our grenade stat. In Ember of Eruption so that solar ignitions have an increased AoE. And then lastly Ember of Ashes so that we apply more scorch stacks to targets. Really good bunch of aspects and fragments right there. Now for the mods, I'm going to start in a helmet and work our way down, so we have Powerful Friends for the +20 to mobility. If you can achieve 100 resilience and mobility without this, then you don't need to have it on, but we also have hands-on for extra super energy on melee kills. Throw on 2 if you can. For the arms we have melee Wellmaker to spawn solar wells from melee kills. The alternative is going to be an explosive Wellmaker, although it might be a bit harder to spawn those wells, so ideally run a melee one if you can. You also want to run a focusing strike for extra class energy when causing damage with your melee attack, and then your champion mod that you need. For the chest we have Font of Might. This is for the +25% increase to solar weapons damage, as well as our damage resist mods for extra resistance. Then in the legs you want elemental ornaments to spawn in extra wells when using solar weapons, along with a better already for health regen when picking up orbs and your scavenger mod. Then lastly for the class you want the new artifact mod here, the monochromatic Maestro, I hope I've pronounced that right, and that will mean that dealing damage with elemental abilities grants increased damage to weapons of the same element, and then same again to the opposite. This is going to buff our damage, which is going to make endgame PvE a lot easier when it comes to DPS. Great for using it in a team, but if you're going to play solo, you're better off running the solo operative mod, as this is a 15% increase, but stacks with everything regardless. But just make sure you have a Lucent finisher on so that you can get infinite heavy ammo from champions. Otherwise, make sure you prioritize resilience to 100 and then mobility as well as your main stats to focus for this build. Honestly, a really good build to use in endgame PvE if you want to use the Hunter's solar subclass for any reason this season, but just remember it's not the best build in the game right now since a lot has been nerfed. But if you want a decent build to use, then this is probably the one you're looking for, so go ahead and give it a try because you might just like it. So guys, that there is your newly updated Hunter Solar DPS build in Destiny 2 Witch Queen Season of the Seraph, or Season 19. Next, as always, remember to check out the playlist down below for more new fun and updated builds like this for this season, as I do cover them every week here on the channel. But for now guys, as always, have a good one, go cause solar chaos, and I'll see you very soon for the next build video. Peace out guys.